Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm Nick, and today I'm going to be reviewing Terminator Genisys. And just like before guys, I am not doing this alone. Go check out Jason Nike's channel, the J-Man's Movie Cave. I have a link to his review in the description of this video. Go check it out right after you watch this. And also don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. And you can follow me on my social medias. They will all be in the description as well. Let's get into this. So Terminator Genisys was released in 2015. It stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jason Clarke, Emilia Clarke, and Jai Courtney. And it was directed by Alan Taylor. So guys, I watched this back in 2015 when it first came out. And my initial reaction was that I kind of loved this film. I thought it was a great addition to the franchise. One of the better sequels that we've got since T1 and T2. But then a year or two later, I rewatched it and I was like, I had a lot more problems with it. I found it a lot more mediocre the second time. So I was interested how I was going to feel watching it this time. This is probably like my third or fourth time. And let me tell you, I had a fun time with it again. First off, the movie almost starts off like it's going to be a remake or a reboot. The way it starts off, they show us the future, the war, right before Skynet sends back the Terminator to try to kill Sarah Connor. We actually get to see that whole little battle and where the Resistance infiltrates Skynet's base. Like, we've seen glimpses of the future before in the previous films, but I think this one really fleshed it out and gave us a good idea of what really happened before the original film. And once Skynet sends the Terminator back to 1984 to kill Sarah Connor, it really plays out like the original film, and you're like, what? Are they going to do shot for shot? And it's just really interesting how they did that. Of course, they recreated it with new actors and that. But yeah, I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And then out of nowhere, they start throwing in T2 stuff, like with the cop. That's like the T-1000. And I'm like, oh, this is an interesting twist. We're starting to mix the first two films. And we find out that since the future and the past have been altered so many times, it's creating these other timelines. So this is not the timeline that we're used to. When Kyle Reese comes back to save Sarah Connor, things get switched around. Sarah already knows what's going on. She's practically the soldier at this point. It was just a real unique twist on things where this could have been a fail, like a shot for shot trying to recreate stuff, but I feel like it's more a tribute because they kind of do their own thing with the material. We come to find out that in the 70s, a Terminator was sent back to save Sarah when she was a child and protect her. So that's why these timelines are all screwed up, because Sarah was already expecting Kyle Reese to show up. And it's just really interesting. And getting into the characters, Sarah Connor is played by Emilia Clarke. And the first time I watched this, that was my biggest problem. This was around the time when Game of Thrones was real big. Everybody knows she's the mother of dragons on Game of Thrones. And I just had a really hard time placing her as Sarah Connor, especially with all these changes they made to her. But on this rewatch, I feel like I've come to terms with it. And you know what? She actually really looks like Linda Hamilton at times, like with her lips and that, and just the looks that she gives. I was like, yeah, maybe she was casted right. Because at first I was like, she's totally miscasted in this. But I guess it just took time for me to get used to it. And since they changed a lot of the timelines and a lot of the characteristics of the characters, it just works. And that same thing goes for Kyle Reese, played by Jai Courtney. He's way different than Kyle Reese before, right? Because what he expected to see in 1984, everything's changing. And he's like, what? He's getting his life flipped upside down. And it was almost the other way around for Sarah the first time, and now it's happening to Kyle. So that was real cool how they did kind of that role reversal. And the only complaint I have for Jai Courtney's Kyle Reese is that he's not rough enough around the edges. I feel like he was a soldier in the future and that, so he should still have that like roughness to him, and I feel like that's the only thing he's kind of lacking. But besides that, all the characters do a pretty good job in this film. And going back to Sarah Connor real quick in this, her character in this is like a mixture of her character in T2, where she's already like a tough soldier, mentality wise anyway, and a mixture of T2 John Connor, how he was the kid who had this protector with him, right? The Terminator. And she even looks at the Terminator, she calls him Pops in this one. She even looks at him as like a father figure, right? Because he was there her whole life. And just like John in T2, he was looking up to the Terminator as a father figure in the end as well. So I thought those were really nice tie-ins to the original films without straight up copying them. Of course, we get the T-800 himself, Pops. Arnold always brings it to these films. He does the machine movements in that so naturally that this was the character he was always meant to play. And I think that he does a great job in this film. It's really unique that he was obviously a lot older filming this one, so they've woven that into their story. Sarah and Kyle take a time machine to 2017 while he waits behind. And when he shows up, he got the gray hair and everything, and I'm like, that's so cool. And the name Pops works even more when he's older. And in this timeline, the Judgment Day happens in 2017, so that's why they time travel to that time to try to stop it in the form of Genisys. Now, Genisys is like this almost like social media platform that can connect to everybody, and it's really Skynet in disguise. Once Genisys goes online, that's when Skynet goes online, and that's when the war of the machines happens and they take out humanity. And just the fact that Skynet's like Genisys, like on tablets and that, I feel like there was that little bit of social commentary woven in there, how everybody has a phone and a tablet, and we're all connected on it so much, like we're all addicted to it pretty much, which would be so easy for Skynet to infiltrate us. And lastly, for characters, we got Jason Clarke playing John Connor. Now, this was basically one of the only other problems I had with the film before, because they make him like the villain. He gets infected by Skynet in a way that makes him no more human and no more machine. He's like the next step in evolution. He's this hybrid of some sorts, and it's real interesting. You can't remove the infection though and bring him back human because the machine has already replaced all of his organs and that. It's basically just using his memories and like his characteristics as a human and his skin. Everything else is basically machine, but much more like digital. It's almost like these nanobots that separate and come back every time he gets shot, and that it's really interesting. I think it's an interesting choice for a Terminator villain because we've already did so much, and it's hard to come up with new ideas after the T-1000, which was too great. And speaking of the T-1000, we do get a version of that in this film, and they find a new way to kill him, which I thought was excellent because in my T2 review, I'm like, basically the only way to kill him is to put him in lava. But no, in this film, they show you that you could also melt him with acid. I'm like, oh shit, that is another way you could do it. And going back to John Connor real quick, he also has like a reversal role in this, where the older films, he was always the savior of humanity. And in this one, he's the savior of Skynet. Like, he gets sent back to 2017 to make sure that Genisys gets uploaded and goes online on time and doesn't get taken down by Sarah and Kyle. So yeah, that was a real interesting twist as well. I feel like this movie throws a lot of little twists at you and a lot of reversal roles. And talking about the action in this film, I think the action's pretty good. It's really engaging. My only little nitpick with it is that almost every big action scene has some CGI woven in there, where like the older films, if there was like a bus crash or something, it looked more real. Where in this, you can tell that they tweaked the scene with CGI and digital effects to try to make it look better and maybe save money on practical effects. But the only problem with that is it takes away a little bit of the realism. Like, there's a few scenes I'm like, that looked cool, but I could tell it was fake. And I think overall that the first half of this film is done so well and so excellent, like the first hour. The second half, it's still good, but I feel like it does drop in quality just a little bit. And you can kind of notice the pacing in that, just kind of slowing down a little bit. But overall, I think this is a great film. I do like all the changes they made, and I feel like if you keep altering the past so much and altering the future so much, you're going to end up with all these crazy timelines and that eventually. So it does kind of make sense to me. Like, your past creates new futures, and your futures creates new pasts. And unfortunately, this was supposed to be a trilogy, just like Salvation was supposed to have its own trilogy, and it got taken down. It didn't happen. Same thing with this. Genisys, it actually made the second most money out of any Terminator movie in the franchise, and it still wasn't enough popularity or enough money to make a trilogy out of this. And I would have been real interested to see where they take this franchise, because their future was unpredictable. Not like the other films where we kind of knew where things were going to go. But this one, since things changed so much, it would have been interesting to see what future lies ahead of them. And interesting enough, John Connor is played by Jason Clarke, and Sarah Connor is played by Emilia Clarke, and neither one of them are related. They both have the same last name, and they're related in the movie, which is so funny that in real life they're no relation. So that was just a big coincidence, guys. But when you first see those two names attached to this film, you're like, are they related? So there you have it, guys. There's my review on Terminator Genisys from 2015. And if I'm going to have to put a rating on this film, I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's a great little action flick, one of the better sequels in the franchise. There's a lot of fun to be had in here, and I like the liberties that they took. So guys, let me know down below in the comment section how you rate Terminator Genisys. Do you love it? Do you hate it? I'm interested to hear your thoughts down below, and until next time, thanks for watching.